Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Brittany and I'm a pastry chef, and my channel is all about pastries and making other things that are sweet. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make one of my favorite treats, which is an apple pie tart with phyllo dough crust. In this video, I will show you how to make an apple cranberry pie filling for the inside, a tasty cinnamon streusel topping for the pies, and how to work with and layer the phyllo dough crust. Before we get started on the tarts, be sure to click the notification bell and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you'd like to download the instructions and the recipes for today's video, just click the link in the description below. All right, to make these little tarts, you're first going to need to pull your phyllo dough out of the freezer and let it thaw. My particular box says that it needs to thaw for 3 hours, at least 3 hours at room temperature. So be sure to do that before you get started with the filling. And we're going to start by making the streusel, so we have it all ready to go. So go ahead and pull out the following ingredients. 1/2 cup flour, 1/4 cup packed brown sugar, 1/4 cup oats, 4 tablespoons room temperature butter, and 1/4 teaspoon cinnamon. Now just grab a bowl and a whisk, and you're going to combine your flour, brown sugar, oats, and cinnamon in the bowl, and whisk those together. And now you'll take your butter, pop it in, and you're just going to break your butter up into coarse crumbs. This is called cutting the butter. Okay, when that's done, you can just set it aside. Next, we're going to make the apple cranberry pie filling. So go ahead and prepare the following ingredients. 2 Granny Smith apples, 2 ounces or 1/2 of a stick of butter, 3 ounces of sugar, 1 ounce dried cranberries or craisins, 1/4 teaspoon cinnamon, and then measure out 2 ounces of cornstarch and add that to 3 ounces of water and stir it until it's combined. And you're going to fill your bowl of craisins with warm water and let them soak while we prepare the apples so that they are nice and plump and not dry. Now go ahead and peel your apples. And then chop them into small cubes. You're going to start by bringing all of your ingredients over to the stove and turn your burner on to medium and melt your butter. Now, once the butter is all melted, turn up the heat just a little bit and go ahead and sprinkle in the sugar. and add in the apples. And you can also sprinkle in your cinnamon now. Stir the whole mixture together. And now we'll just cook the whole mixture until we can easily stick a fork into the apples. Give the apples a test every so often. They're still pretty crunchy, so we'll continue to cook and let the sugar caramelize a little bit more and soften the apples. The apples are getting a little easier to stick a fork into, and we don't want to overcook them. So just before they get fully done, I'm going to take my cornstarch and water mixture and make sure to give it a stir so that there's no clumps. And I'm just going to drizzle a little bit in. We're definitely not going to use the whole combination. Just enough to thicken up the sauce because you can see it's pretty runny. I want to make sure we cook the cornstarch through and thicken this up. Just let it heat for a little longer and see if the sauce is as thick as we like it. Checking the apples to make sure they don't get mushy. They've still got a little bit of a crunch to them, so that's good because we still are going to bake this in the oven. So we don't want the apples to get too soft. I'm going to add one more drizzle. Make sure it's incorporated. And right now the sauce is obviously hot, so it's a bit runnier. When it cools down, it'll set up even more. So just keep that in mind as you're adding your cornstarch. Don't want to add too much. Just want to add enough so that it's starting to look like a thick sauce. And it's looking pretty thick. You can see it's not runny. So I'm going to stop with the cornstarch and I'm going to take my dried cranberries and just squeeze them out like this and add them into the mixture. And we'll check the apples. Still a little crunchy, but soft on the outside. So I would say our apple pie filling is perfect. So I'm just going to take it off the heat and set it aside for now until it's time to fill the tarts. So to prepare your tart shells, here are the supplies you'll need. You're going to need your phyllo dough, 2 sheets of parchment paper, a damp towel that is big enough to cover the parchment paper and the size of the phyllo dough, a mini cupcake tin, a knife to cut your dough with, a pastry brush to spread butter, and some melted butter. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my dough out of the wrapping. It's been over 3 hours now, so it's all thawed. You'll see how thin it is. And you do not want to keep it out in the dry air for very long. So once you get it out of the wrapper, you're going to get it onto the parchment, immediately cover it with a piece of parchment paper and then your damp cloth. And then we'll just work with it like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is trim the edge because they're not even. So I just want them to all start out at the same spot. That'll just make things easier. I'm just going to discard that. So our first step is to cut little squares in our phyllo dough big enough to fill these cups, this cup size. So I'm thinking, look at this ruler I have from elementary school. Dare to resist drugs and violence. Anyway, so these cupcake cups are 2 inches. So I'm going to cut my phyllo squares probably, you know, you want a little extra so they can sink down in. I'm gonna try out 2.5 inches. So I'm going to pull this open just enough to reveal the end. Got to keep everything else moist. And I like the word moist, so anyone who wants to argue with me, because there's just no better word to describe certain things, you know, like cake and stuff like that. And I actually want my edges to overlap the top of the pan a little bit more. So I'm going to adjust the size. So I'm going to cut another row of squares. So the process is the same. You get your first layer of butter. And your next layer, rotated. And the butter, obviously you can see, helps them stick together like glue. It'll also add nice pockets of flakiness after they're baked. And it also keeps the sheets moist as you're working. So it kind of serves a lot of purposes. So this is my 4th sheet. And my 5th and last sheet. And I do a layer of butter on the top of even the last sheet, just to help keep it moist. Just to help keep it to not dry out while I finish making all of them. So I'm going to transport this over to my cup, and I'm going to press it in like this and lay the sides down like this. So you can see the difference in size, and I like this one better when it's done baked because it has these pretty little triangle edges, and I just like the look of it. Here's a tip on how you can separate your sheets easier. Now, as you can see, I've skipped every other cup so that the edges of the shells don't run into each other. So my cupcake tin is full, and I've got my apple filling here. I'm just going to use a spoon to fill the pies up to the very top, like this. Once I've filled it to the top, I'm going to take some of the streusel and put a nice big pile on top like this. When you bake it, the butter will melt and the streusel will kind of fall down. So you want a nice pile on top to start with. See how this little one it's just not as pretty. And you've probably figured out by now that this is a pretty time-consuming treat. It's definitely a labor of love, but I promise they're so worth it. They are so flaky and delicious. Now just go ahead and bake them at 375 for about 10 minutes. So the apple filling recipe only makes about 12 tarts. You can always double it and make more if you'd like. The streusel would probably make about 24 tarts, but the phyllo dough, the box of phyllo dough makes a lot more than that. So you'll definitely have extra because it comes with 2 rolls, and I didn't even use a full roll to make my tarts. So I'm going to just take what I have left and like this, I'm going to roll it back up just in the parchment paper that I have it setting on, and going to take some plastic wrap and wrap it up, and I'm going to put it back in the freezer and use it for a different recipe some other time. Here's what the tarts look like after about 10 minutes. You only want to bake them until the edges are golden brown. You don't want them to burn. And then the streusel, you can see, has all melted. There's a little bit of the applesauce bubbling out the edge. They look perfect. And if you feel like it, you can finish them off with a little bit of silver or gold leaf. You know me, I'm never one to turn down gold leaf. Now, you don't want to take these out of the pan until they've cooled for a little while. But once they've cooled for just a little while, you can take a fork and just carefully pick them up by the little edge. Try not to break them. Just like this. And here are our apple pie tarts, all finished. You can serve them on a plate with some ice cream, or you can just pop them one after another straight into your mouth. And I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to give me a thumbs up down below. And I also hope that you give these little apple tarts a try. I think that phyllo dough makes for a better, flakier crust than regular pie dough. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, today's the day. If you'd like to learn something else that's sweet, click on one of these thumbnails, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in a week. Bye!